Hello again. So this is the course Data Structure and Algorithm in Industrial and Management Engineering Department. And this is the introduction about the course. Hope you can follow this course. And I will just give you the basic. Okay, what is the data structure and what is algorithm, and we're going to discuss it later. So the agenda of this course will be first is about what is data structure, and the next is what is algorithm, and why do we need to consider DSA. So DSA is the data structure and algorithm, and brief introduction to Python. So let's see what we are going to study in this course. The first I would like to say about the data structure. As you know, the title of this course is data structure. So you are going to learn about some basic data structure, for example, array. Or there is also another kind of data structure, we call it linked list, stack, queue. Okay, so those kind of data structure are already established, and they are very popular in many fields. So what is data structure actually? So in the data structure, we are going to learn about methods of organizing data in your computer. So when you have a lot of data, then how can you organize the data in your computer? That's very important. And we're going to learn why it is very important to manage or organize the data. When the data is getting big, then of course you need to arrange those one in a good way. So for example, the data structure is very useful to manage this kind of route. Let's say I want to go from house to school. Okay, so you can see this house is located in the left, and school is located in the right upper side. And if you go to school, you need to follow the path, you need to follow the route. Let's say the house will have a route to store, we'll have a route to police office, and we'll have a route to the intersection. Yeah. And as you see, there are two kind of line. The first line is bidirectional line. It means you can go from house to store and you can go from store to house. However, there is also a one directional line. For example, you can go from store to police office, but you cannot go from police office to store. So it's only one direction. Then from this kind of example, you may see that we can check the data structure like this one. So the house and store, okay, we have this house and store. So the house and store is in one data, is a connection data, and then the second one is store to house. So it is different because house is the starting point and store is the ending point. On the other hand, this data mentioned that store is the starting point and house is the ending point. Okay. With regard to the other data, so you can see like store to police office and house to the police office and etc. So this is a kind of data structure. So once you have this data structure, you may think that okay, it is fine. But as you may know, the representation of the data can be in another way. For example, we can make in this kind of structure. So the structure here is about the how can you manage the data according to the origin. For example, house. Okay, if it is from house, then there will be the direction to store, police office, and intersection. If you're starting from store, then you will see the direction to house and police office. So those two data structure are available, and yeah, it depends on what you're going to do with your next thing. After you organize the data, of course you need to think then this data is very good for which part. After we learn about the data structure, in this course, I will also explain about the algorithm. What is algorithm? So the algorithm means something that is related with the process. So you need to understand the process of something. Let's say some example in the algorithm is the algorithm for sorting, or the algorithm for searching, the algorithm in the recursion, and one of the algorithm that is famous for doing the some numerical things are like dynamic programming. Okay, so we will check, well, if the time is available, then I will explain many algorithms. Of course, I will just explain the algorithm that is related to the industrial and management engineering. So the algorithm can be in the two parts. Okay, so the first is about the how the operations on the different data structure. So if you already establish in one data structure, of course, it will have a different way of the operation. And the algorithm analysis is also one of the things that you will learn. If it is about the estimation of the running time of the algorithms. If you are using data structure A, then it may have a long computational time than the data structure B. And yeah, you need to analyze that one. And which data structure is the best, you need to choose based on this algorithm analysis. For example, yeah, let's go back to the previous example. We have the house, store, police office, school, and intersection. And let's say I want to go from house to school. Then what is the best route? You can say that, okay, we need to, this is the problem. We need to find places you can go from house. So from house, you can see that there are three destinations. First is store, second is police office, and the next is intersection. Okay, so you can go to store, you can go to the police office, or you can go to the intersection. And after this, from each of the place, find all the paths. Okay, so if you're choosing from house, then it means you will go to store, and then you will go to police office, and then you will go to school. If you're from house and you are going to school from the police office, then it means you will use this direction. If you're from house and you are going to pass by the intersection, then it means you will go this direction. Okay, so after you find all the path, you need to calculate the distance to the current place. Okay, so if you're having the house to store, how big is the distance? Store to police office, how big is the distance? Police office to school, how big is the distance? Then you know the distance from house to school if you pass by the store and police office. And also the other alternative, repeat this process until you reach school. Okay, so we have the route to school. So after you have the all the distance, then you need to compare the distance that you calculate. So which one is the best one? Whether you're going to school from house to store, or you're going to school from house to police office, or you're going to school from house via intersection. Okay, so the algorithm will is a kind of process to evaluate a kind of problem. So in this case, the problem is to find the shortest path. So in order to find the shortest path, then you need to compare. When you have the origin and when you have the destination, then you can compare the distance from one location to another location. So what is the data structure and the algorithm then? So if you already have this data structure, let's say, yeah, the same example that you already have this one, then yeah, if you're doing with the algorithm, let's say you want to go to from house to the school, so you need to check all this alternative. Let's say from house to store. Okay, this is one way, and then you need to check them from store to house. So it is reverse. So maybe you don't have interest to do with the store to house. To store to police office, then this is the alternative. And then house to police office, maybe this is another route, but it's not connected. So you need to go through all this data So you need to go to for all this data, and then after that you can check the distance. And after you have the first option, like from the house, store, post office, and school, then you will check the other option, which is from house to post office. So you have the house, post office, and then post office to school. So it's also the same. You need to search from the beginning of the data until the end. So the computational time will depend on the number of the data that you have, like this one. If the data is large, of course, you need to go through all this data every time you have the root. Okay. Now, let's see if we have this data structure. Okay. So I want to go to school, and I'm now in the house. Then, if you're following the node, it's easy. If you're having your position now is in the house, okay. So if you're now in the house, there's an option if you go to store or post office or intersection. And if you check, I'm going to store. Then after you check the store, then you can just choose the next node, which is the store. If it is the store, then you can have an option whether it is house or post office. So you are now, do you know you want to go to school? Of course, you will not go back to house. So you will choose the post office. So after you have the post office, then you will go to school. Okay. So once you have this one, then you can calculate the distance. So by using this one, of course, yeah, you can see that the calculation of this root is better with this data structure. But for this data structure, you need to go through all the data every time you want to find the distance. So which one's better? Okay. Yeah, of course, I cannot say that the first is worse than the second, but yeah, it depends on the computer. It depends on the way you propose your algorithms. Of course, the algorithm can also affect the computational time. In this case, yeah, we will learn all the things in this semester. So why do we need to consider DSA? Why do we need to learn about the data structure and analysis? First thing is about the data. The data is now getting big and big and big. You know, I think a few years ago, we have a lot of terminology in the big data. So in the big data, at least there are 6 V. Okay, the V represent the properties of the big data. At the first time, the V only 3. Okay, we have the volume, variety, and velocity. So the volume means the amount of the data. So the amount is very huge. Then that's why we can say it is big. And the variety of the data is varied. It means it consists of the structured data, semi-structured data, and unstructured data. But the velocity, it means about the speed of the data. You know, if you're using email, of course, it's very slow because yeah, the email can go to everyone just in 1 minute. There might be like 2 or 3 emails. But if you're using the Twitter or if you're using the social media, it is much faster. You will see how many Twitter posts, how many Instagram posts, how many Facebook posts in 1 second in the world. Okay. So the other aspect that you need to consider when you deal with the big data is the veracity. The degree which big data can be trusted. Okay. There are many data, but there are many hoax. There are many false data. So when you have your data, you need to verify whether it is true or false. It is also one of the concerns when big data occurs. Value, the business value of the data collected. It means when you have your data, you need to consider whether it is valuable or not. Maybe it is about money, then it's valuable. Or if it is not related to anything of the business value, you may think that it is a secondary data. The variability is also another important issue. The ways in which the big data can be used and formatted. So when the data is in the stream, okay, the data keep coming, the data keep coming to your system, of course, you need to sort, you need to filter which data can be used and which data can be formatted and which data is not useful. So this variability is also another issue in the big data. If you cannot handle the variability, then you cannot do with your analysis. So this 6 type of V is the consideration when you are learning the data structure. If you have those 6 V, you need to think what is the best data structure in order to apply your algorithm. Now, let's say in the first example, you see very simple route from house to school. But this data is about the GPS data equipped in taxi cabs in Beijing. There are 67,000 GPS and is very diverse. So the taxi can go from one point to another point, and the GPS will come every second. So there will be a lot of data. If you can manage the data well, of course, your algorithm will not run in real time. Your algorithm will not run in the proper computational time. Yeah. So the algorithm is also another issue. When you're having a good data structure, you need to analyze whether the algorithm is complex or is simple. So what does it mean by complex? So the algorithm can have a constant. So the constant means there is no increment on time. So um, it will not depend on your data. If your data is huge, but if your algorithm just can do with a constant time, of course, it's much better. Or the other complexity that we learned about the algorithm is the linear. So the operation time increment is linear. It means when the number of objects or the number of data is increasing, the computational time also increasing. So it is linear. But the quadratic is another kind of complexity. The operation time increment is quadratic. So when the number of objects or the number of data increase, the number of computational time is increased quadratic. So it's like x power of 2. Okay. So if the data is x, then if your power of 2, then it will be a quadratic. Okay. Then your computer needs to support this kind of computational time. If your computer is very good, of course, you can do it as well. And you know that you have a lot of devices. Okay? So the utility computing is also another thing that you need to consider. When you are doing with the desktop, you have a good specification. But what about if you do the analysis in your laptop? And what about if you do the analysis on the tablet or in your smartphone? Okay? If you already know the deep learning, many people think that the deep learning is good when you use desktop because the desktop provide a very good specification. However, nowadays there are many researchers try to use the smartphone as the deep learning server. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. So the utility computing is important if you know how can utilize the devices. So it means you know what is the data structure that you need to build. If you know the very basic data structure, then you can develop your own data structure so that the high computational algorithm can run in a very small device like smartphone. Or if you know the cloud computing, okay, the utility computing in the cloud is also another thing that you need to consider. This is one of the comparison. Yeah, I took this one from the Microsoft. So you can see this is the price. This is the pricing if you are using the AWS. It is from the Amazon Web Service. It is the price if you're using the Microsoft Azure, and this is the price if you use the GCP. GCP is the Google Cloud Platform. Okay, And this data is the, okay, you can see this one, the Azure bills per minute, down it down, while Amazon and Google Cloud bill per second. So you can imagine if your data structure is not good, it means your bill will be very huge. Okay, but if you can manage your data structure in proper way, then you can try to make the costs lower. Right? So this is the bill that you can consider if you want to use the resources in the cloud. So yeah, that's the thing that you can uh, learn during one semester about the data structure. And of course, there are many things that we will check later. Now I'm going to give just brief introduction about Python. Yeah. So Python is one of the languages developed in 1990. So the guy who developed this Python is Guido van der Loon. He was a guy in the Netherlands. Now he hosted the Center for National Research Initiative in America. But the good thing of Python is it is free, it's open source, and there are a lot of community, and it is object-oriented language. Everything is an object. So when you choose a computer programming, when you choose a programming languages, you need to think that the languages support the community. Okay, why? Yes, if you learn programming language, you will have a lot of errors. You will have a lot of difficulties. And once you need help, you need to contact the community. If you don't have any community related with those programming languages, then you cannot develop very good application. Okay. So in order to have a good knowledge on particular programming language, try to find the community. And for Python, you cannot do Python just in this short time frame. Okay, so I mean, yeah, in this one semester you cannot do it all things in Python, but at least you will have the taste of the language. And Python comes with extensive documentation, including tutorial and library references. Also, a number of Python books available, so you can check on the internet. There are also many resources. Okay? And if you have errors, then you can check the errors in the Stack Overflow or other resources. And if you need to have more details about the tutorials and the reference manual, you can go to the www.python.org. They have the tutorial and they have the reference manual. And some other resources like Stack Overflow, GitHub, and etc. It will help you to enrich your knowledge on Python. So in this course, I'm going to teach you Python. So I will explain how you can download and how can you install, but it's very brief. So I really hope that you can download the Python. Okay? If you already familiar with Python, then I'm very pleased to hear that one. But if you are not familiar with Python, I will guide you step by step about how to install Python. So this is the Python. Yeah, you can choose whether you are using the Windows or you're using the Mac. Okay. And then the next installation that you need to do is also the Anaconda. Okay, the Anaconda. I will give you this kind of guideline later. And one thing that you need to prepare is the your laptop. Okay. So in the next meeting, I hope that I can give you some step by step. And if you already have your laptop with you, then try to install it in advance. Or if you don't have your laptop, then no problem. Okay. In the computer room 203, that is the place for our course initially. So all the computers have already been installed with Python. So you can use the computer as well if you want to use the tools that I'm going to use in this semester. Okay, so I guess that's all for this lesson. For the next lesson, I will explain about the installation and see you on the next Many.